Alright, hello to anyone watching this. I kind of wanted to make this video to talk about something personal, and I kind of hope that you guys find this interesting, maybe get a little more insight into what makes me me, and I think this will be kind of therapeutic for me to talk about because I haven't really told uh, many people about this. I don't know if I've told anyone about this, or at least in the way I'm going to articulate this. So, the title of this video, first of all, I don't know where this video is going to get posted, if it's going to go YouTube and Facebook, or just Facebook, or just YouTube. Um, I'll kind of decide that tomorrow, I guess. But I, um, the title of this video, if it's going on YouTube anyway, is going to be 4 straight years of limerence. And if you don't know what limerence is, it's spelled Limerence. I recommend looking it up on Wikipedia and kind of reading about it, because that's what I'm going to be talking about here. And I've actually known about the term since like my senior year of high school. It was actually one of my vocabulary terms in English class my senior year of high school. So I guess that's how you know I was paying attention at least a little bit in high school. But that word, I kind of, over the last several years, every once in a while, I've kind of looked up that word, and I think it's really applied to me and my experience for my life from 2016 to 2020. January 2016 to January 2020, I had limerence for those 4 years between 3 different people, which I'm not going to name any of those people in this video, but yeah, the first 2 people who I experienced limerence over. Okay, first of all, let me kind of define limerence if you're not looking up the definition right now or whatever. It's basically feelings of having like very romantic feelings towards a particular person. And for me, and I'm sure anyone else who ever feels limerence, you can only feel it for one person at any given time. You can't feel limerence for multiple people, and part of that I think is because the feelings are so intense, and it just feels like only one person can fill that spot in your heart and in your life and in your emotions. So anyway, so there were 3 people over the course of 4 years who I had these feelings for, and this is going to sound weird to say, but person number 1 and person number 2 I actually did not know outside of the internet, like in my physical everyday life. And for person number 1 and person number 2, the feelings for each of those people lasted between like a year and a year and a half. It was something that I never felt like I could really tell anybody, because I thought people would think I was crazy. I thought people would tell me to get over it, it's just it's an illusion that you have these feelings and that's not really what love is or whatever. But those were feelings that I had, and they felt so real to me. And person number 2, I'm actually friends with that person on Facebook, even though I don't know them in my personal life. Like, we've never met in person, and we contact each other a little bit. But I guess I should also say person number one and person number two are people who make YouTube videos. They are not one of these people who are on the internet making like OnlyFans accounts or, you know, showing nudes of themselves or anything like that. That is not what this is about. They just make YouTube videos, and I started developing feelings for these two people over time, and it transferred from the first person to the second person, and I never had those feelings for both of them at the same time. And what those feelings kind of are, just to get into it a little bit more, it's kind of like you just imagine yourself being very intimate with those people. And I'm not really talking about like sex necessarily, but that is part of it. And kind of lustful feelings too, but just like being with the person and just being in their presence, kind of. And for me, I consider myself a very like emotional and sensitive person, which is like a blessing and a curse, you know. And for me, I've always been so into music. So over this 4-year period where I had limerence for 3 different people, anytime I would listen to a love song, I would just feel this overwhelming feeling of being intimate with that person who I had feelings for, and I would feel it, like right here in my heart, and it would just go throughout my body or whatever. And so person number 1 and person number 2 I didn't know in real life, like outside of the internet. And person number 1 may or may not have been aware of my existence outside of maybe reading a comment or 2 that I made on one of their videos. Person number 2 was aware of who I was, and we kind of had some back and forth communication and stuff, and I did my best to respect boundaries and give them space. I just kept those feelings inside to myself. And I guess I'll also say that for these 3 people and for the person, I also had limerence for one other person back in high school. I've also written like poetry about all 4 of these people, just not even about the people per se, although that could be the case, but just like the feelings like that the people have caused me to feel or whatever. So anyway, person number 2 was aware of my existence, and we communicate and stuff, and we are friends on Facebook. But there's not really any, it's just, I've never met her, I've never, in my life or whatever. Person number 3 was somebody who I met in my life, and somebody who I still every once in a while am able to communicate to. This person is actually like very busy with their life, and that was a weird experience. It was weird for me to go through that experience of limerence for person number 3 who I knew in real life. And I also want to say that with these feelings of limerence, I never chose to have those feelings. You don't, if you've never felt the way that I'm describing right now about somebody, it's like you don't really choose to feel, you don't pinpoint somebody and say, oh, I'm gonna feel that way about that person. I'm just like kind of living my life or whatever, and it happens. And I go along with the happy and the sad feelings that come with that. And anyway, with person number 3, this was somebody that, because of where I was at in my life a few years ago when I met them, like I could not avoid them really. Like, they were in my life. I was seeing them pretty much on a daily basis, almost every day. And that was like really hard for me to like keep those feelings in and kind of navigate my life while at the same time navigating the feelings and trying to be honest as but respect that person's space and get and respect their boundaries and stuff. So but if you don't know what limerence is, I'm sorry I'm jumping around so much with this conversation. Please bear with me. If you don't know what limerence is, look it up on Wikipedia. Again, it's spelled Limerence, and that is just what I had been feeling over that 4-year period. And I'm going to read kind of a sentence from the Wikipedia article that I have pulled up on my phone here. It says, limerence can be experienced as intense joy or as extreme despair, depending on whether the feelings are reciprocated by the other person. So that was something that I really experienced with person number 3, and I did not really experience it that much with person number 1 or person number 2. I actually told person number 3 at one point that I had feelings for them, but I did not really dive into what those feelings were, like, super specifically. Basically, if you read on Wikipedia about limerence, that is what I was feeling for all 3 of these people, but I didn't know how to articulate it in the way that Wikipedia kind of has explained it. So, the having a lot of joy, but also having a lot of despair when the feelings weren't reciprocated, that is what I felt a lot with person number 3. And, there were days where I would just cry, like, I'm not trying to be too dramatic right now, but there were just days where it was like I would try to like get myself closer to this person and try to connect with them a little bit more, and I would kind of beat myself up if I felt like I didn't live up to what I want. Like, it's hard to explain. But also person number 3, who I guess it's possible that they may be watching this, they had no idea that I had those feelings for person number 1 and person number 2. Those feelings of limerence that I had for person number 3 predated them to person number 2 and person number 1. And basically, person number 3, at the time I met them, they were not single. They separated from the person they were with, and they were single, and then that was when I told them, like, very soon after they became single, that's when I told them that I had feelings for them. Like, these feelings of limerence. And it basically, the person told me that they didn't feel the same way about me, which I totally understand, especially because I was holding so much in, and I'm very innocent and naive in a lot of ways. And but I also wanted to try to stay close with this person, and then like 5 or 6 months after that, they started dating somebody else, and those feelings of limerence like totally went bad for me, and it was just really hard to deal with because I was seeing this person on almost an everyday basis, and I didn't know how to handle those feelings. Like, I didn't know what I could say to somebody. I didn't know. It was just very hard to go through. And I'm fortunate enough that like nobody in my like immediate family has died. and I don't really have any friends that are like super close to me that have died by suicide or drug overdose. But going through an experience like that has been one of the hardest things for me, just because like it feels like a part of you is dying, and it's hard to person number 3 at a certain point became like became one and the same with my work, my previous employer, and I could not separate the two. And so anytime I was at my previous employer, at the workspace, it was just hard for me to separate what I was doing every day for the company versus like versus the feelings that I had for this person, and I couldn't like separate the two and live happily without suffering on the inside and stuff. And it's, you know, there's so many people. I've struggled my whole life with social anxiety. I had a conversation with person number 3 about like my struggles with social anxiety and the problems, you know, the troubles that have been, that it's caused me like for almost my entire life. And so many people, like my mom, my dad, HR at my previous employer who I was talking with when I was going through this rough time, they all thought it was about my social anxiety. You know, at the time I was living at an apartment by myself, and I couldn't leave. I felt like I couldn't leave the apartment. And so many people thought it was about my social anxiety just with other people in general, but that's not what it was. It was this limerence that I had for person number 3, and how I could not, like, if I was maybe smarter and following my brain instead of my heart, I would have maybe pushed away, tried to get myself separated from person number 3 sooner before it really affected me. But it's just like I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to talk to anybody about it. And so yeah, that was a really rough time. So as I was getting over the feelings for person number 3, that was like towards the end of 2019, going into 2020, and it's really hard because, you know, limerence, that lasted 4 years. It was a huge part of my life for 4 years, and not including the limerence I felt for somebody back in high school when I was like 16, 17. And it's like when I feel something, I don't want to. There's so many people who, if I were to talk to them about this, they would say, oh, well, you need to meet new people in your life and have new experiences and do things in your life to move on from that person. But I'm trying to separate the person and the feeling, and it's like I don't want that feeling to go. Like, that feeling is real to me, and that's something I don't want to like just deny myself of my feelings. And so it is, I kind of, the conclusion I've come to is, you know, I guess I should also say that, like, you know, I'm a 28-year-old virgin who has never had his first kiss before and has never had any sort of physical intimacy with somebody, but I've always had, you know, at least since like late middle school, early high school, like I've always had crushes and feelings about people. Like a therapist asked me one time, when I told them I was a 28-year-old virgin and I've never had my first kiss before, a therapist several years ago asked me, well, am Ali, are you asexual? And I was like, no, like that's reasonable to assume for somebody who's a 28-year-old virgin who's never had any sort of physical intimacy with somebody before, but like I didn't know how to, like I was like, no, I've always had these feelings, but I didn't know how to like explain that to the therapist, and like I it's weird. But yeah, I've always had those feelings, and you know, it's you know, I over the last 2 years of my life, I have not had an employer um, for a full 2 years, and I'm there's reasons why I am able to be unemployed for 2 years and be kind of okay as maybe as far as like financially goes and stuff, but like because my life has been stagnant for the last 2 years, and about 2.5 years ago I was getting over those feelings for person number three. Those feelings come back, you know, periodically, like every once in a while, and you know, especially like when I have a lot of time on my hands and stuff, and it's navigating those feelings that is hard to do sometimes. And um you know, I guess one thing I'll say is like, again, I connect with music a lot, and over here to the side I actually have this is an acoustic guitar that my mom got me like a year and a half ago as like a gift, and I'm so grateful that she got it for me because um, I will occasionally have periods of limerence still for person number three that creep up on me, and I use the guitar and play along to certain love songs and sometimes think about person number three and those feelings of love and wanting to be intimate with a person and having a connection with a person. Those feelings come back, and I just have to realize, okay, if I have those feelings for person number three who I may or may not ever see in my life again because this person is not really physically present in my life, I have to accept the fact that I will feel a little bit of pain when I'm exploring those emotions still. Like it's bittersweet. Like I feel these, again, those feelings of wanting to have a connection with person number three and stuff, but I can't have those feelings, and that's okay. And you know, but it does, I do get emotional about it sometimes, and it really does play a role in my life. And one other thing that I want to say, this is from the Wikipedia article, and then I may or may not be done with this video. I know this is such a long video, but I want to kind of just talk about this. I hope this has been kind of interesting or insightful for anybody who's still watching this long ass video, because that period of limerence was 4 years of my life that I really didn't tell anybody about, at least in the way that Wikipedia describes it. There's one section of the Wikipedia article that says that there were these two kind of psychologists in the 1980s that observed that those suffering from loneliness are significantly more susceptible to limerence. And they argued that, quote, if people have a large number of unmet social needs and are not aware of this, then a sign that someone else might be interested is easily built up in that person's imagination into far more than the friendly social contact that it might have been. By dwelling on the memory of that social contact, the lonely person comes to magnify it into a deep emotional experience, which may be quite different from the reality of the event. And when I read that, I was like, obviously this was said by psychologists in the 1980s, so it could be different right now, but if this is true, like that, what I just said, that speaks to me so much, because person number three said certain things to me that made me feel like they were interested in me in the way that I maybe wanted them to be interested in me and that I was thinking about, and that wasn't the case. It was like taking things the wrong way on my behalf, and before I knew it, the limerence that I had for person number two, which was somebody who I didn't know in real life outside of the internet, went to person number three. And this transition happened, and I didn't even choose for it to happen. It just happened. And so, what I just read says, if the person has, in this case myself, who is feeling the limerence, if they have social needs that are not met. And reading this right now, it's like kind of relieving. It's sad, but it's also relieving to think that maybe my social needs have not been met in my life. And I do not put blame on anybody else for that except myself. I don't blame my parents. I don't blame anyone. It's something that I have dealt with and stuff. And again, it's just, there is a small part of me that wants, the feelings of limerence were so strong from, again, this period was January 2016 to January 2020. And those feelings were so strong that it felt like a really real part of my life, that it happened, those feelings happened, and I can't just ignore that they happened and that it didn't mean anything, because it did mean something during that time period. And I'm just thinking right now where limerence plays a role in my life right now. And again, it doesn't really come up except for every once in a while with music. And again, with my acoustic guitar that I have here off to the side, or, just listening to like certain love songs that apply maybe to the situation with person number three. It's like those, when that does happen, which happens somewhat frequently depending on my life, it's like I try to just navigate those feelings and be like, okay, Ollie, you can feel those feelings, but you realistically there's a good chance you will never be with person number three. And it's like, okay, I just accept that and try to move on. But then I'm so worried about the future of those feelings. I don't because because I didn't know person number one and person number two in real life, I couldn't really try to show them kind gestures and stuff, and I felt like I was trying to do that a little bit with person number three, and it was just, it's, a lot of people might say, oh, well, Ollie, you can just feel those feelings for somebody else and then do those nice things for somebody else. But it's like, in a way, that's almost not what love is in the long term, And that can be intimidating when you want to love somebody in that way, because you're almost saying, like, you want to love them forever, even when you don't even know somebody that well. And that can be very intimidating and also potentially dangerous, to love somebody really, really, to give your all for somebody when you don't even know them that well. And I'm almost at a point in my life. I'm 28 years old. I know uh, I look like I'm 16 or something, but I am getting old. I'm 28 years old, and I guess realistically, I guess the future of having a potential relationship, it just comes down to friendship. Like, just being friends with somebody, and it's not about necessarily being infatuated with somebody. It's about enjoying each other's company, making each other laugh. Um, putting little trivial things behind you and just being like, okay, like let's just enjoy the presence of each other. And part of that is sex, and part of that is all these other things that make a relationship beautiful. And that is what I would want out of a relationship. And but I also know that you know, I'm not in a place at the moment necessarily to be in a relationship. And I still, if I want to be with somebody in the future, I have to be 100% over person number three, and those feelings come back sometimes, and it's not easy to go through. But okay, I think that's everything I wanted to say with this video. I know this is so long. If you made it to the end of this video, like, God bless you. And I don't even know if I really believe in God, but I'm just saying that as a figure of speech, like thank you. I put a post on Facebook like a month and a half ago, basically saying, um, you know, like if anybody at any point in my life has ever been patient with me, has been there for me, has given me the benefit of sorry, giving me the benefit of the doubt, and just like been patient with me and willing to communicate and talk, like, just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Like, it really just means a lot that people have been patient with somebody like me who is very sensitive, emotional, has dealt with social anxiety issues my whole life. And I hope this video was kind of informative and maybe gave you a better understanding of where I'm coming from. So and yeah, again, it's just I gotta navigate these feelings of limerence, which still come up every once in a while with person number three. And I play along to my acoustic guitar, and I try to, like, I'll feel those good feelings, but then I have to be like, okay, you're gonna have bad feelings that come with that because you can't realistically be with person number three. um you know so that's all really that I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much for watching. I don't know if this is going on Facebook or YouTube or both. If it's going on YouTube, it will be titled 4 Straight Years of Limerence, and kind of my experience, my story. If it's going on Facebook and I can title it, I'll just title it the same thing. If you have questions, comments, anything, please reach out. I'd love to talk about this stuff. And I hope you guys, whoever's watching this, is doing well. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great month. Have a great year. Have a great life. And yeah, thank you for watching. All right. Bye-bye.